part 4 of how I found out my boyfriend lied about his age. At the time, I was 15 and I found out he was 32. So I tried to call the cops and he took my phone and threw it out the window. I didn't know what else to do, so I just started throwing hands. And in the process, he ended up hitting the car in front of him. He created a big dent in the back of the car, and the car in front stops. And the guy in the car jumps out and starts yelling at Jake. I start waving my hand for help. He backs up and runs back to his car. I was confused at first until I saw the police arrive 5 minutes later. So I guess he had called the police. When the police got there, they had patted Jake down, they asked questions, and investigated the whole car accident. They asked me questions about what happened, and I told them. I ended up having to tell my parents. We had to go to court. Jake, on the other hand, went to prison. The whole situation was weird, and he lied throughout the entire relationship. After everything was over, I learned my lesson with guys like him. I now do background checks on any guy I date.
Story time about why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. Never thought this would happen to me. This story takes the biggest turn at the end. Okay, so it first started off as just my lunch lady eyeing me weird. Whenever I would enter the cafeteria or whenever I would pay for my food, she would always give me the weirdest look. And then sometimes she wouldn't even let me get lunch. She would say, "Oh, you don't have enough money on your account," when I knew the day before I just put money in. So then I wouldn't be able to eat lunch. I reported her a couple times. Mind you, my mom works at the school. I even told my mom about it. She would just lie and be like, "I never said she couldn't get her food." Mom told me that if she ever refused to let me get food again, to just come up to her classroom and then she'll give me something to eat. But I was so confused because my mom works at the school and I expected her to talk to administration about how the lunch lady is treating her daughter. But she didn't say anything to administration until one day. This time, I actually didn't have any money on my account and I did not know. I went to go get my lunch as usual. When I go to check out my food, the lunch lady throws her hands up, knocks my plate out of my hand. She says I'm just like my mom because we're both greedy. Like for part 2. This is part 2 of why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. So like I said, this time I actually didn't have any money and I went to check out my food for lunch. The lunch lady knocks my plate over and says I'm just like my mom since we're both greedy. And I had no idea what she meant. Said she meant to throw her hands up. She didn't mean to knock over my plate. Everyone was looking at us and it was so awkward, so I just walked away. And I didn't even sit down for lunch. I just walked out of the cafeteria and went straight to my mom's classroom. I had no idea what the lunch lady was talking about. My mom doesn't even talk to her. Or at least, I thought she didn't. So like I said, I was on the way to my mom's classroom after the lunch lady yelled at me in front of the whole entire cafeteria. And once I got to my mom's classroom, I told her exactly what happened. She was in the middle of class. When I tell you my mom stormed out of her class, went straight to the cafeteria, pulled up on the lunch lady in front of everybody, and she grabs her by her hair. The lunch lady tried to grab to the cash register. The cash register fell and money went everywhere. All you could hear was the coins dropping on the floor like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. I was so close to jumping in, but my mom had her. Other teachers had to come into the cafeteria to break them up. And I got a time select for part 3. Okay, so this is part 3 of why my lunch lady always hated me in high school. Like I said, my mom dragged the lunch lady in front of everyone in the cafeteria. Some teachers came and pulled them apart. They immediately fired my mom, obviously. My mom said, "Forget this, forget y'all," and she took me and we both went home. Well, on the way home, she told me the beef with the lunch lady. So apparently the lunch lady had been flirting with the history teacher. And my mom and the history teacher were seeing each other on the low. My mom was married. So I was like, "So what about dad?" She said that my dad just didn't make her happy anymore. But the problem with the lunch lady was the fact that all the teachers at my school are messy as fuck. They all talk shit about each other. They're always talking about another teacher. And so basically all the staff knew, just because of rumors and gossip, that my mom and the history teacher were kind of seeing each other. Everyone knew, including the lunch lady. So once the lunch lady started flirting with the history teacher too, they low-key started having tension with each other. But it was unnecessary for the lunch lady to take out her anger on me, so that's why she whooped her ass. By the way, this happened when I was in high school. I am now graduated out of college. And my parents are divorced now, so.
This story time is how my boyfriend got my sister pregnant. At the time, I just graduated college and I moved into an apartment with my boyfriend. My sister at the time was 2 years younger than me and she was still in college. But she ended up dropping out because she said school wasn't for her anymore. My parents were upset that they had paid for school and she dropped out in the middle of it. So,
are you not ashamed of yourself?
they kicked her out, and me being the older sister, I let her live with me and my boyfriend until she got back on her feet. My sister was also depressed at the time, but me and my boyfriend would always cheer her up. As weeks went by, she ended up getting a job at Target, and she helped pay for some of the bills towards the apartment. One day when she gets back from work, she comes into my room saying that she wasn't feeling well and just passed out. She wasn't waking up, so I took her to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, they told us that she was pregnant. Part 2 will be up soon.
This is
Part 2 on how my boyfriend got my sister pregnant. So like I said earlier, my sister passed out and I took her to the hospital, and come to find out she was pregnant. I was happy for her, of course, but she never told me she was seeing anyone. When we got back home, I asked her, so who the baby daddy? She jumps and she's just like, some guy from school. I said, some guy got you pregnant? And I bust out laughing. She told me it wasn't funny. Then I asked, so who is he? She said, we don't talk no more, and ran into her room. I let it go, but I noticed something was weird. Couple weeks later, one night my boyfriend leaves our room to go to my sister's. I get up and I listen on to the conversation, and he's basically trying to convince her to get an abortion. So I walk into the room, very upset, and I ask him, why is he trying to convince her to get an abortion? And I notice he's giving her a stack of money.